Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. 2020 will kick off with a fantastic Big Ten versus SEC matchup as number 18 Minnesota takes on number 12 Auburn in the Outback Bowl. And I've got to say, first off, I am a huge fan of this matchup. I'm a huge fan of getting to watch PJ Fleck go up against Gus Malzahn and getting to see two teams that were really good this season, but just not good enough to break through and reach the ultimate goal and the ultimate prize. You look at Minnesota. Fantastic year for PJ Fleck. A team trending in the right direction, a team that's becoming relevant both in the Big Ten and on the national stage, one that's looking for their first 11-win season since 1904. But they were just one win away in the season finale against Wisconsin from making the Big Ten championship, and had they won that, more than likely making the college football playoffs. So they fell just short of that ultimate goal of getting to that Big Ten title game, but a fantastic season nonetheless. Same can be said for Auburn here, a Tigers team sitting at 9-3, a team that beat Oregon, who's playing in the Rose Bowl, and also a team that beat Alabama in the season finale, where they had 2 pick sixes and then luckily got that missed field goal that won the game in the Iron Bowl for them. They gave LSU their toughest test of the season, only losing that game 23-20. So 9-3, but were unable to get to the SEC championship despite how well they played, unable to maybe contend for the college football playoff like they did just a few years ago. But 9-3 with a true freshman quarterback, not a bad year for Auburn at all. When you look at these two teams offensively, and we'll get to that true freshman quarterback in Bo Nix as we mentioned, but the biggest storyline comes from both teams is that they're each dealing with some new offensive coordinators. Those kind of some shock waves. Coaching carousels get pretty wild during the postseason. That's what we're seeing here. And Auburn owning that advantage when it comes to their new offensive coordinator, bringing in Chad Morris, the former Arkansas head coach. Gus Malzahn, Chad Morris, a phenomenal, great relationship, old friends from when they used to be in their high school coaching days. Morris is going to be a great addition to this Auburn program where I think he will thrive. He is and always will be a coordinator. That's all he will ever be. He's not fit for a head coach. We saw that during his time at Arkansas. We saw that during his time at SMU. I think he would do well with the Tigers in a coordinator role. For Minnesota, they lose Kirk Ciarrocca at offensive coordinator. He's leaving for Penn State, and they didn't get that news until December 26th. So Minnesota kind of at a disadvantage here when it comes down to their offensive coordinators, as Auburn has had a little bit more time to prepare for this. But Minnesota, across the board, they've thrived this season, and a major reason for their kind of resurgence is their passing game. They're averaging 34.3 points per game, and Tanner Morgan has been one of the better quarterbacks in the entire Big Ten. I mean, that's just plain and simple. He's accurate, he's precise, he makes good decisions. He's thrown for over 2,900 yards, 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and has a 66% completion percentage. So he has done a phenomenal job and is, like I said, a huge reason that Minnesota is in this position right now, the reason they're 18th in the country, and the reason they were in contention for the playoff and a Big Ten title up until the very end. He has 2 phenomenal wide receivers that he's throwing to, so they're making the quarterback look pretty good themselves. That includes Big Ten wide receiver of the year, Rashad Bateman, who has over 1,100 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns, and also Tyler Johnson, arguably another one of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten. So this is going to be a very talented wide receiver core that Auburn's defense is going up against. Maybe not as talented and as complex and tough as the Alabama receiving core that they went up against in the Iron Bowl, but one that will certainly challenge this Auburn secondary. When you look at Auburn, they are one of the more balanced teams in the entire country statistically. They're averaging 210.1 passing yards per game and then 211 rushing yards per game. So 9/10 of a yard there separating Auburn's passing offense and their rushing offense. And you've got Bo Nix, the true freshman quarterback that's been at the helm for the Tigers, who's just kind of been up and down all season long. He's been great at times, shown flashes of brilliance, but has also at times shown that he is a true freshman quarterback who's going to continue to make mistakes. He's put up over 2,300 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions this season. Of course, adding a couple extra touchdowns and some stats on the ground as well. So a little bit of a dual threat quarterback, the type of guy that Gus Malzahn and Chad Morris want in their offense. They also have Jatarvius Whitlow, a major reason Auburn is thriving this season, a major reason they're 9-3. Auburn has been ground and pound for the majority of this season, whether it's with their quarterback or with their running back. Whitlow leading the rushing attack with 739 yards and 9 touchdowns on the season. So 211 rushing yards per game. That's pretty dang good, especially in the rugged SEC when you're facing off against the teams like Alabama and LSU and Texas A&M. Georgia, as Auburn always plays them from the SEC East. So a very impressive mark for Auburn's offense, and the ability to stay balanced is something that could be a huge key and difference maker in this game against the Golden Gophers. When you look at the defense, they're going to be both without key players. So you look at the offense, they're both bringing in new offensive coordinators. You look at the defense, and Minnesota and Auburn are both losing 2 rocks of the defensive side of the ball. We'll start with Minnesota here. They're going to be without their linebacker and Kamal Martin, who had 66 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 interceptions on the year. So he's, of course, preparing for the 2020 NFL Draft, as many players are doing in this 2019 postseason. We're not a fan of it. Many of you have voiced your opinions. You're not a fan of it. But unfortunately, it is what it is. And we, of course, wish all of those players that are choosing to sit out the best of luck going forward in their future NFL careers. But they're going to be without Martin at the linebacking position. But hopefully that won't be too bad and hurt them too much for the 14th best defense in the entire country. Yes, PJ Fleck's Minnesota Golden Gophers, they have the 14th best defense across the board in the entire country, allowing just 22.4 points per game. They are number 11 in the country when it comes to their passing defense, only allowing 184.9 passing yards per game. And when I look at that, I'm not too worried about it. I don't see Bo Nix in a neutral site against a solid Minnesota defense going out there and throwing for 300 yards. I do not see it. I think Auburn has to win this game solely through their rushing game and through their defense. If they want to win it, that's how they're going to have to do it, because Bo Nix, I said he's improving, and that is true, and I do believe that. I expect a bigger sophomore year. I just don't expect him to put up big numbers in this game. Minnesota is also 29th in the nation when it comes to stopping the run. So doing a phenomenal job there as well. They're 14th in the nation for a reason. 29th in the nation when it comes to stopping the run. A major key if you want to beat the Auburn Tigers. That's a major key for anybody when they go up against Gus Malzahn's team. For Auburn, their major player they're going to be missing is defensive tackle Nick Coe. He will be out of this game. And of course, we knew coming into the season, when you looked at that defensive line for Auburn, you have Derek Brown, you had Nick Coe, you had Marlon Davidson, one of the best defensive lines and pass rushes in the entire country, not just the SEC, but in the country. And I really admired what Derek Brown came out and said. He was like, I am a captain of this Auburn football team. My teammates, elected me as captain, and I'm going to come out there and finish what we started. I'm going to finish my career as an Auburn Tiger by going out there and leaving everything I've got out on that field for one final time. And that is how every college football player should be when they're preparing for the NFL Draft. I understand why they choose to sit out, but Derek Brown, we salute you for not just going out and saying that for playing in this Outback Bowl. It's certainly not a meaningless bowl game. But Auburn, their defense, led by Derek Brown on the defensive line, they're only allowing 18.6 points per game. Just 18.6. So much better than Minnesota's, and I think even more impressive because they're playing in the SEC. Auburn has the 19th ranked defense in the entire country, so you've got 2 solid defenses here, but they're 40th in the country when it comes to their passing defense, allowing 208.4 passing yards per game. So Minnesota's key is to win the game through the air. Get it out to your wide receivers in Johnson and Bateman. Keep the pocket clean for Tanner Morgan. Allow him to get the ball out like he did in some major games this season, such as that Penn State game. But the one difference maker I've got here defensively for Auburn, that could be the breaker for Minnesota, is we mentioned Derek Brown and Marlon Davidson, both who will play in this game, Nick Coe sitting out. They're going up against a Minnesota offensive line that is ranked 100th in the nation. Keep in mind, there are 130 FBS teams. Minnesota sits at number 100 when it comes to their offensive line, allowing 30 sacks this season, an average of 2.5 sacks per game. 2.5 sacks per game. And this Auburn defensive line is the real deal. They know how to get to the quarterback. So that's my difference maker and thing to watch out for. You've got two defenses here, great points per game margins. Minnesota, great across the board, 14th in the country. Auburn, 19th in the country. Passing defense, a little shaky, but their rushing defense, very, very solid. They know how to shut down the run, and their pass rush, even better, going up against a weak Minnesota offensive line. And that is why we are going with Auburn in this game. That's our major key there. We said Minnesota needs to win through the air, and Auburn needs to win on their defense and their run game. Their defense is going to be the difference maker in this one. I expect them to get some yards on the ground, but the defense is what's going to make the difference. They're fast, they are physical, they're big. And Minnesota's offensive line is just not going to be capable of holding up in this game. It's going to put Minnesota in some second and third and long situations, which could very well end those drives. Auburn might be able to get a couple strip sacks in there, so some quick turnovers that will benefit Bo Nix. If you go back and watch some of the film from some of these, Bo Nix, obviously, as any team would, but has put up some bigger numbers because he's had very favorable field position from his defense. His defense has really helped them out there, putting it inside the 30-yard line. If that's where your drives are starting, then of course you're going to thrive. And that's not to take anything away from Bo Nix, but that's what they need to do for a freshman quarterback in a bowl game like this. That will certainly benefit them. But if Auburn knows how to do that, if Auburn utilizes their speed with their wide receivers and their run game, I expect them to take care of business down in the Outback Bowl. So many things going into this game. Like we said, new coordinators, people sitting out, but I like this talent out of the SEC to get the job done. And for the second time in the past 3 years, Auburn will clinch a 10-win season. Things are certainly trending up for Minnesota. You cannot frown upon what they have done this season under PJ Fleck. The boat, it's rowing in the right direction. Next year, 2020 might be even better. But the Tigers are the ones that start off 2020 on a very, very high note and carry a lot of momentum going into next season. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here on YouTube. Make sure to check out everything we have for you in the description below. We've got the bowl pick, spread pick for this Outback Bowl, as well as every other bowl spread pick over at thegridironexpert.com. We've got exclusive college football content and offers you do not want to miss as well, so check it all out in the description. And as always, thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.